Welcome to Cincy Entrepreneurs Unplugged, where EO Cincy members lay it all on the line, sharing real stories of their worst moments and greatest lessons learned. Get ready for an action-packed series featuring a dynamic lineup of EO Cincinnati members.
Hi, Kara. Thanks for joining us here today on the Entrepreneur Unplugged series from EO Cincinnati, where we share real stories and real life lessons from entrepreneurs around Cincinnati and our fellow organizations like Atlanta. Um, can you tell us a little bit about your business, LeadCoverage, and being part of EO in Atlanta?
Sure. So I'm Kara Brown. I'm the founder and CEO of LeadCoverage. We are a go-to-market consultancy only in supply chain and logistics. So don't turn off your listening. I promise that it has other applicable pieces, specifically in B2B. But yeah, I've been in Atlanta for maybe 10 years now, and I've been in EO Atlanta probably 8-ish years. So I'm a huge fan of the EO network.
Fantastic, fantastic. So the Revenue Engine book, loved it, was very life-changing, and I do feel it's universally applicable to B2B companies. It way goes beyond logistics industries. But how is it going? How is the book going for you?
Well, first, thank you. I'm not sure that I expected it to be life-changing for anyone, but I'm thrilled that it is. The book is going great. So we expected it to, kind of be a tool that we would hand it to potential customers, that we would give it to prospects and, our team that would learn from it. And it's become an Amazon bestseller. We sold like 3,000 copies on Amazon, which is a shocking number of books. And we've given out probably 2,000 copies. So it's amazing to me that it's done as well as it has. We're super proud of it. We've actually just finished, we're recording on April 14. We finished last week the companion workbook.
Oh,
So
great.
now we have an 80-page workbook that has, exercises where you can follow the framework and then do some exercises on your own business or on your business, on the business you work in. And so I'm really excited to get that out into the marketplace, because if the book has done this well, I'm sure the workbook will do just as well.
Fantastic, fantastic. So in the book, one of the first sections is sharing good news. What are some practical things for entrepreneurs and for our businesses that we're running that are B2B businesses for sharing good news? And I love how you say, you think you don't have good news, but everybody has good news. So
Yeah.
tell us some ideas for sharing good news.
Yeah. So if you talk to marketers, and I'm using the word marketers from like a branding or content marketing perspective, which is not what we are. We are a demand gen shop. So I am less interested in colors and content than I am in math. So if you talk to like a branding marketer, they'll use the word content, they'll use the word brand, they'll use the word story a lot. We don't use those words ever. We never use those words, because for us, sharing good news needs to drive revenue. And so good news has to have three things. It has to be timely, it has to be applicable to your target audience, and it has to be regular and consistent. And so one of the pieces of good news that I think people forget about is analyst relations. And what I mean by this is, in your space, there is an analyst. In supply chain, it's Gartner. It's a Gartner show, right? In other industries, it might be Forrester or Morningstar, right? There are humans doing research on your marketplace, and you don't have to be an enterprise to take advantage of the resources inside the Gartners or the Forresters, and you don't always have to pay them. So briefing a Gartner or a Forrester or an IDC or Nucleus Research can be free. Like, you can just give them information, because they need to absorb as much as they can about the marketplace to make good recommendations to their clients. And so I think analyst relations is probably the squishiest. Like, people don't really know what to do. What would I say to an analyst if I talk to one? Why would I talk to an analyst? I'm too small for analyst relations. How do I prove to my boss or prove to myself that I'm going to get an ROI from analyst relations? So I think it's probably the one that is used the least. But once you start doing it, you realize just how powerful it is.
Yep.
And then I think the second piece is trade magazines. right?
Yes,
The
talk that,
smallest,
right.
yeah, like I say in the book, the smallest trade magazine has a reach that is, multiples of your personal reach. So I was at a client in Kansas City, or prospect in Kansas City last week, and I went through this whole, sharing good news and all the things. And he said something to the effect of something about LinkedIn. And I was like, wait, I never said the word LinkedIn. We're not talking about LinkedIn here. We're talking about thought leadership that is going to the press. The press is picking up on the thought leadership, and you are being coined a thought leader by a third party that has nothing to do with your LinkedIn. And so I think we had to like separate that for this executive. I think a lot of people think that sharing good news is just going to hit social media and that's going to be the magic pill, and it is not. Now, I share every single day on LinkedIn. We can attribute almost 5 million in revenue to LinkedIn. So I'm a big proponent of LinkedIn. But I really do think that third-party analysts and trade press and the media are the third-party credibility that you need to back up whatever you're doing on LinkedIn.
Great, great. We work with managed service providers, for example, and there's not a Gartner's related to people who are in the service industry like that, but there are things like the channel program where they have quadrants where you
Yeah.
can get ratings. So thinking like creatively,
Yeah,
like what are
G2
those things
crowd,
like?
right? Things like that. Those are all super important. Third-party credibility is important, whether it's Gartner or a rating engine.
Great. Yes. Wonderful. And then one other good news thing that you had in the book that people might not realize is good news is sharing what we do call them stories, case studies, which are stories of how you helped your customer, or you mentioned customer wins. You want to talk about some examples of case studies that are good news, or how to make your case studies fit the good news
Case
criteria.
studies are always good news, right?
Right?
They're just really hard to get, right? Especially, so my particular customer, my ideal customer profile is a freight broker, freight forwarder, or warehouse company over $1 billion in revenue.
hmm
So if you are a 3PL and you have, I don't know, Whirlpool as your client, getting Whirlpool to do a case study with you can be
Right.
really hard, right? So case studies for my particular part of the marketplace are difficult because my clients are serving the enterprise market, which are, very rarely are they going to let you do a case study. So case studies are super important. We oftentimes anonymize them, but I think what's more important than the good news itself is who is it going to? Because if you put the best case study together of the best, business process outsourcing solution on the planet, and you send it to my mother-in-law, it is useless. She is a lovely, lovely lady, but she's not buying from any of us, right? And so I think people spend a lot of time worrying about the what, and they should focus a lot more on the who.
Why don't we jump right to that? And we're going to go off questions from what we talked about at the beginning,
Yeah.
but can you talk about your ICPs and the total addressable market? I feel, we've been inbound marketing people for years, and the direction of learning or pulling your total addressable market and getting that data is a newer idea from where we started inbound, 20 years ago. But talk a little bit about identifying your ideal customer profile and your total addressable market, and then how are you tactically using that, like in your HubSpot, in your Unbalanced? How are you doing that?
So your ideal customer profile drives everything. There is no marketing if you do not know who your current customer is, and then who your prospects are. So I will give you an example. We'll use we'll use Costa Coffee. They happen to be downstairs, right? So Costa Coffee has direct competitors. It is Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks, right? Like this doesn't go over, and probably like the local coffee shop too, right? But those are two different ideal customer profiles. So your enterprise coffee shop and your local coffee shop are two very different ideal customer profiles. You can get intent data from the enterprise. You can't get intent data from the SMB. Like there's a lot of differences between these two ideal customer profiles, right? And so I think a lot of companies spend a lot of time on what we're going to say about ourselves, which is the opposite of the way we like to create, because our content should be about solving our customers' problem, not about us and our solutions. and you don't know the customer's problem unless you're very clear about who the customer is, and more importantly, who the customer is not. So we spend a lot of time on ideal customer profiles. An ideal customer profile has a demographic and a technographic component. So demographics of the company, these are not humans, these are not personas, these are the companies that you're going after. And so a demographic score or a profile is how big, where are they, right? For us, it's usually how much do they ship, what modes do they ship, what commodities are they shipping, do they have a 3PL relationship, are they multi-tenant? Like there's a whole bunch of questions we ask about the demographic profile. Then you have the technographic profile. So this gives us a level of sophistication of the customer. So if they're using SAP or Oracle, they're clearly more sophisticated. Maybe they have cash to spare, right? If they're using Constant Contact or MailChimp, we can glean a pretty obvious understanding of where their marketing is, right? And so we're looking for this ideal customer profile to fit both a demographic and a technographic sweet spot. If you do not do this and you market to, I'm just going to use our logistics language, right? Anyone who ships, 95% of the individuals you're getting in front of will be opportunity cost. So the real goal of the ideal customer profile exercise is to cut down on opportunity cost or waste. Because the longer you spend marketing to someone who will never buy, the longer it takes you to close the deals that are in front of you that you should be closing. And so we spend a lot of time on the clear ideal customer profile. And there's a difference between an ICP and a wish list, right? If you're shipping today, this is again my world, if you're shipping today for, Bob's Hammer Company, and you say, well, I really want to get Stanley tools. Like those are two very different ideal customer profiles, even though they both sell hammers. And so we have to be really careful about the ICP. And then your next question was, how do we use the ICP and the total addressable market analysis inside of HubSpot? We are hyper specific on who we are sending what content to at what time. This also leans into intent data, which I'm super bullish about. And so the same intent signals cannot be from Stanley Tools and Bob's Tool Company. They're super different. They have different problems. They have different solution sets, et cetera. And so inside of HubSpot, we tag them. So they're all tagged with a different type of ICP, with a different product set, et cetera. And the right marketing is sent to the right person at the right time based on the ideal customer profile. And so I guess I'll wrap it up with, be really careful that you are not using a wish list ICP. It is your current customer today and repeating that current customer, right? That's one. And two is pulling the TAM. You need to own every email of every human who could do business with you. That is the only way to acquire primary intent signals.
Great. That's really great. I also enjoyed in your book where you had your Marcom tech stack pages, 101 levels, 201 levels, 301 levels. I think that's very helpful and useful to people. Anything changed more for a mid-level business than enterprise level business? Any changes in like where you're finding the best intent data sources and data sources today? I'm guessing I'm asking like the 101, 201, what you call the 101 and the 201 levels. Like,
Yeah. So I think ZoomInfo is the worst tool. I really
Okay.
don't like ZoomInfo. Now, if you're in technology, ZoomInfo might be great for you. They have very clearly told me that they are uninterested in freight and supply chain. And so they're just not working hard for my customers, right? Like I want my vendor partners that I'm choosing to go to market with to be working hard for my market. And ZoomInfo is not interested. So we found Sales Intel, and Manoj, the CEO of Sales Intel, is actually in the book. He helped us write a chapter on ABM and intent data, or AI, sorry, he's in the AI chapter. And he is working towards creating a supply chain center of excellence inside of his data tool. So we like Sales Intel. We think it's a better tool than ZoomInfo. But I'm kind of agnostic as to where you get the emails. Like, I don't really care. Like, you have ZoomInfo, you have Leadfeeder, you have Seamless. Like, there's 1,000 of these tools. They're basically just pulling email addresses. I think the most important piece is that you clean your email addresses, make sure you clean them. And two, that you're using them, right? That they are useful to you in some capacity. But from a data perspective, we really like sales intel. From an intent data perspective, I am telling people to go get a demo of 6 Sense, even if they can't afford it, because it is by far the best in the marketplace. And so whether we like them or not, they are winning and they're doing a great job. And our clients that use 6 Sense are crushing it. And so having access to it's really important, knowing how to use it, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really, really expensive. And then if you back down kind of to a mid-tier level, we like Rollworks. And so those are kind of our two intent tools that we appreciate very much. And then you can get Bombora data basically from anyone. Sales Intel also is coming out with some intent tools and some cool new stuff. So I'll have a demo of that later this week and I can tell you if I like it or not.
Great, great. Yeah. We've been hearing good things about Apollo.io as well. And we might be in that level. But I've been hearing good stuff about them and then having intent as well. So right into now we've got our good data. You talked about tracking interest, not just leads. So describe to people how you all do that or how you advise your clients to do that to track that interest. Oh, and we didn't cover the whole concepts. Let me back up and ask you that first. Can you cover the whole revenue engine concept, all the components, and then talk about tracking interest?
Sure. So the revenue engine is a 9-step process. I actually came up with the framework at EO Harvard.
Ah,
So I went to EO Harvard, gosh, it must have been 23-ish, 24-ish. And or maybe before, it doesn't matter. I went to EO Harvard, I had a blast, it was great, highly recommend it. And it was 5 days and we did 12 case studies in like 4 days. It was bananas. And every single case study had a framework for the solution. And so I walked out of Harvard and I was like, all right, I have to make a framework. Like this is obvious, right? So I made the framework. And so it's a 9-step process. And the process is the methodology, which is share good news, track interest, follow up. The funnels, which is the prospect funnel, the nurture funnel, and the customer funnel. And measurement, which is volume, velocity, and value. And so it's a 9-step process. If you follow this 9-step process, you should be well on your way to be able to at least measure a little bit of what's happening from your marketing team. But this is basically the premise of the book is this 9-step process. Back to intent data. There are 4 types of intent data. Primary intent data is where most of our clients should be spending most of their time. Everyone gets really excited about third-party intent, 6 Sense and demand-based or single stream intent. They get really excited about it. But until you've mastered primary intent, you're not really ready for the big stuff, right? So let's do one thing at a time. So primary intent is what lives in your HubSpot. And I'm going to use the word HubSpot because I think everyone should be on it because it's just an awesome tool and it connects right to your domain and you can see the activity as long as you own the email address of the human. So if Margee Moore comes to the LeadCoverage website, now that you and I have emailed, I can see that you came to the website, that you spent a couple minutes on 3 or 4 pages, that you clicked out to the revenue engine, which is the book website, right? Like I can see all of that activity inside of my HubSpot. Those are primary intent cues. I'll tell you a funny story. This is a great story. So I was at a very exciting trade show last week called the Transportation Intermediaries Association. I know you're jealous. It's a lot of freight brokers, but it was a great show for us. And there is a gentleman at a tech company, runs a tech company, who has been all over us, okay? He opens every email. He's come to the website 4 or 5 times, been to the revenue engine site. We're not really sure if he's bought a book or not, but like he's been to the forum where you can buy a book, et cetera, et cetera. And he has not responded to a single email. So he's checking everything. There's forwarding happening. There is activity around us. He is not a stranger. He knows who we are, right? But he won't reply. So my head of sales found him at this trade show. And he watched him at the booth. This is so creepy, but Jeff is amazing. His name is Jeff. My guy's Jeff. And he watched him go to Starbucks. And so he followed him. Swear to God, this is how this works, right? So we know this guy's interested, but he won't reply digitally. We're all in the same room. Follows him to Starbucks. He's in line behind the guy, starts a conversation, and the guy's like, man, you look really familiar. Have we met? And Jeff wanted to be like, no, but you're all over the website and you open every email and like, would you please, right? So long story short, we now have a qualifying call with this prospect. We would have had no idea that this guy was interested. He would have just been another anonymous visitor showing up to our site, right? But because we are super intentional about taking every single email address and putting it in a HubSpot, Jeff has been able to see this primary intent like showing up, right? And HubSpot even gives you this little intent module now. It's great. Like they tell you like, hey, these companies, not the humans always, but these companies are on your website. And so that's a great way to use it, right? We're a small business, every deal counts, right? We can see these individuals that are showing up and showing interest. And so this is literally the definition of primary intent. And so we do this for our clients across the board, right? Professor John Dawes, a guy in Australia, says that 95% of your buying market is not buying at any given time. So you are looking for the 5% that are buying, right? And the 5% are showing up. They're doing their research, they're clicking around, right? Like maybe it's not the CEO, but someone else. And so if you can see this activity, it is a very clear intent signal that something is happening.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I do love the newer buyer intent part of HubSpot as well. And was curious if you were using that or different views. That's cool. We love that too. Great. Okay. Consistent follow-up. I feel like a lot of times we bring marketing qualified leads to the table and that consistent follow-up is not always done. So what's your advice for entrepreneurs when they're worried about feeling pushy in sales, but how do they properly follow up, do the right follow up, and make it count for getting those sales that we all need?
I do not believe that you can be too pushy in sales. I would rather have someone send me a cease and desist than not close a deal, right? I also appreciate a hard no to a maybe. So I will ask someone like, hey, if this is a no, just tell me no. It's fine. Like I'm not gonna get my feelings hurt, but I would rather you tell me a hard no than have me keep chasing my tail, right? So I'll tell you a little story about this, little experience share, right? So we had a customer in the middle of the country and we were working for them and they needed to fill a warehouse. The whole point of us working for them was to fill a single warehouse, which isn't a great use of us, but it was fine, right? We figured it out. So we sent them 17 meaningful. So my team actually makes the first dial. So things we share the good news, track the interest, and then I have a team that'll make the first dial. So my team is making the first dial and we set meetings with their prospects and hand them back to them. And we had set 17 meetings in 45 days. That's a lot. Okay. So for this particular company, et cetera, that was a lot. 17 meetings in 45 days. And they weren't closing any of them. And so I flew my little dupa to the middle of the country and I went into the conference room and I was like, tell me what is going on. Because my team is putting plenty of leads in your hands for you to close. What is the problem? And the sales guy sat across from me and he told me that he is following up with these leads, these qualified meeting set leads, twice. And if they, thank you for your face, said if they don't reply, that he doesn't just put them into a nurture campaign or tell my team so we can reach out to them. No. He hits the disqualify button, which is where all good things go to die, right? So he has taken these 17 opportunities that we put in his inbox and he has literally flushed them down the toilet. And so our SOP for my team, when they are making dials and like, we don't do these cold calls are dead, but like these are warmed up dials, is 35 touches. You are not allowed to disqualify until you have touched the record, the human, 35 times. And this is just to get a call. This is just to like, hey, are you interested? Let's set up a phone call with someone who knows how to do this. Like these are qualifying phone calls. And so I think follow-up has become such an enigma to so many. But I'll
Mhm.
tell you what happened in freight. And I don't know, maybe this happened across the marketplaces, but specifically in freight. In 2019, we were all kind of banging for dollars. Everyone was, taking market share from other people. Some were growing, some weren't, but it was all kind of the same thing that we've been doing for like 20 years. Then the pandemic hit, and my customers started taking orders. So instead of closing deals and like working hard to solve a problem and close a customer,
Mhm.
the customers were calling in and being like, I just need this freight moved, right? Like, we're so busy. Demand is so high that I just need to get this freight moved. And so for 2 years, we didn't sell. And then we hit a brick wall in 2023, and there was a freight recession. And then starting the engine back up and getting the muscle motion of really dedicated, dialing and following up and getting in front of people was dead. And so many of our customers have had to restart that engine. And it's really hard to do because these salespeople didn't sell for 2 years.
Mhm.
So we're kind of starting from scratch. So that may or may not happen to the folks that are listening to your podcast. I don't know. But
Mhm.
I do know that things have materially changed in logistics and supply chain since pre-pandemic.
Yeah, and I definitely feel too. There's a lot more. There's a lot less people pick up the phone, and a lot more phone calls coming through, and then there's a lot more emails coming through that you are completely unsolicited, unrelated to anything you do. So I think the volume has gone way up, which I think makes it hard for salespeople to feel effective. I love that 35 touches before you can,
We don't usually get to 35, to be honest. Usually it gets to
yeah.
20 to 22. 22 seems to be the magic number, where people are like, please stop calling me, right? Or like, Jesus, okay, I'll get on a phone call, Or,
Exactly.
oh, thank you for reminding me. I did fill out that form a month ago, and now I am ready to have this conversation, which are the better ones for us, right? But yeah, it's way more than your sales team expects, and it's probably more than they're doing today.
Yeah, that muscle memory went away. Um, so I was going to ask, let me ask about the funnels, and probably the prospect funnel. There's three funnels, and then a little bit about the prospect funnel, and then what tactics are you using to push people into the funnels?
Sure. So we like three funnels. I do not like the bow tie method. I think it's like 1989 called. They want their philosophy back. Like, I just think the bow tie method is so old. And actually, the BCG, Boston Consulting Group, just came out with kind of a new model, because they are clearly saying what we all know, which is that the buying process is not linear. And so they have this new model where it's like all over the place, which is great because I think that's true. So the three funnels for us are the prospect funnel, which is where strangers live. This is where your primary intent signals will tell you that someone didn't know who you are, but now they figured out who you are because you put yourself in front of them in the right place. These are strangers. So the prospect funnel goes stranger to no longer a stranger. The nurture funnel is no longer a stranger to dollars or deals. And so this is where most of the magic happens. And then the third one is the customer funnel, which is cross-sell and upsell, which is where most of our marketers are completely clueless and have no idea what they're doing and have no idea how to measure it. And so those are the three funnels. The flexion point that we appreciate the most is from prospect to nurture, because this tells us that our top of funnel execution is driving leads, like material leads, into a nurture funnel. You can't really get these out of HubSpot. There's no like easy way to set up these three different funnels in a tool today. But it's the way that we kind of think about the architecture of campaigns. It's how we think about the architecture of measurement. So you're measuring volume, velocity, and value against each of these funnels. So against the prospect funnel, the nurture funnel, and the customer upsell cross-sell funnel, which gives you a nice kind of easy way to show leadership, hey, this is what we're doing in each of these areas, because there's a very different method to the madness on getting someone to just be aware that you exist than there is to getting someone who is aware that you exist to telling you that they're really interested in becoming a customer. Those are two very different motions. And so we like to separate them and separate the strategy and the campaign building and the content, et cetera, Because it's really important that you're not sending a top of funnel message to someone who is really close to becoming a customer.
Very interesting. So to bring it to life for people who, I think you made a good point that, the CEOs don't understand marketing. What are like a funnel? Like tell us about like the prospect funnel. What are the parts of the funnel? Is it a landing page and a set of content? So tell me some like a funnel example.
It's a good question. So for us, the funnel is less about tactics and it's more about where the prospect is in their journey. So again, turning it around and thinking about it from the future customer's point of view, what is their experience? So in the prospect funnel, this is where our top of funnel activity happens. So fresh records that we have just been introduced to, downloads of lists from data sources, downloads of lists from trade shows, opportunities from partners to kind of get in front of their people. The prospect funnel is dirty and it should be dirty. This is where people who maybe meet the ICP live, but they're probably not like super ICP or they've taken another job. Like it's okay that the prospect funnel is pretty dirty. And the tactics that we use to drive top of funnel acquisition is really pretty simple. It's the website, it's SEO, which isn't like my favorite, but my head of paid is convincing me more and more that it's important. It's landing pages, it's email activation, right? It's trade shows, it's straight up advertising, it's pay-per-click, it's intent data, like it's all those things that you're expecting for the top of funnel. And then what we measure is top of prospect funnel to the flexion point between the prospect and the nurture funnel. So how fast can you take a stranger from I have no idea who you are to I now am considered a lead and I'm interested in what you have to say. Every customer is a little different, right? Every system's a little different. We like to use lead score for this, but the HubSpot lead scoring mechanism is great. So do they fit the ICP? Do they have a demographic and technographic that meets our criteria? And then what are they doing behaviorally that would turn them from a complete stranger into a lead? The word lead is such a leading word. I say it more than the book. I don't love the word lead. To a leadership team, the word lead requires money. The leadership team will expect you to deliver revenue against a lead, which most of the time there's no revenue there. It's just a person showing some interest. Maybe they're doing some research, right? 5% of those humans that are in your buying market are buying at a given time. So don't call them a lead until you're really ready to assign revenue.
Yep, their record. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Great. Good. Great. So I think we've used a lot of your time and I love it. One of the questions we talked about that I think you're going to have some fun answers. Yeah. Talking about your company LeadCoverage, what's an early mistake you made in building your own revenue engine and how would you advise others to avoid it?
Oh man, so many mistakes. I think I'll give you the success story and maybe instead of the mistake, because I think people make mistakes when it comes to this, and that is our commitment to LinkedIn. We are hyper committed to posting every single day to LinkedIn. We have some math around what works and what doesn't, and then I'm often surprised. This is a funny story. So I post every day about intent data, books I'm reading, things that are happening, right? Like the posts have gotten over time have gotten pretty sophisticated, if I say so myself. Like you can follow me and get value out of just about every post. And about a week and a half ago, I posted a silly post. It was not supposed to do anything but make people chuckle about I am not a hugger. I don't hug people. I don't like to be hugged. I don't want to hug you, right? This post went viral. So the definition of viral is 7 times your follower count, right? So the impressions are 7 times your follower count. This thing went to like 50,000 impressions. It was absolutely bananas. And I had people coming up to me at the trade show I was at last week. And they're like, hey, great to see you, but I'm not going to hug you because I saw your post. I was like, oh my God, like this this is the thing that I'm known for now is like, don't hug this woman when you see her. And so I think being creative, and I mean, it wasn't even creative, Margee. Like, it wasn't even interesting. It was an uninteresting post. It was me whining about having to hug some guy at dinner. Like, it was so silly. But I think being the thought leader has worked. The book itself has worked. So if you are an entrepreneur and you are thinking, hey, I want to be an expert, how do I get in front of people? I am happy to share any and all experience shares around writing a book and just how successful it's been. I mean, we have driven enough revenue to cover ourselves for the year, right? And so I think that those are a couple things that I'm happy to share. And then also it's just like, just every single day post to LinkedIn. So I have a system. I don't do it myself. I have a ghostwriter on the team. She's absolutely terrific. I send her ideas through the week. So if I'm actually, when I go to these EO international learning opportunities, I'm like, I must send her like 12 a day. So I'm going to the 3rd year of EMP this June, and I'm also going to the first EO Oxford, which is kind of fun, in May. And so I will send her probably 12 a day from those environments. And then when I get back, she and I will sit down and we can bang out close to 6 posts in a half an hour. So she just says, hey, this is the prompt you sent me, and I just talk, and then she turns them into words. You can also use AI for this. I'm sure I just happen to use a human. She's really good at it. I hope she uses AI. I hope she keeps it nice and tight in terms of how much time she spends. And then we just like share and engage as much as possible, right? But I think throwing in the occasional, like, I don't want to be hugged, or, something specific about you as a human seems to be working.
Very cool. Very cool. So I would love to, this has been so valuable and so great. Can't wait to share it. I'd love to close with a question like, maybe like what has EO made to you, or anything you'd like to share that I haven't asked you about?
Oh, I am happy to share my kind of EO pitch. I'm a huge fan. I love everything about EO. I actually was in a meeting Tuesday last week, and someone said to me, well, I saw Vern Harnish gave you an endorsement on your book. And I was like, yes, like, thank you, EO, for making that happen, right? Jack Daly is my coach. I am all in on the luminaries that have come before us in terms of small business and growing small business. I'm a huge fan. And I am really, really also bullish on the international learning opportunities. So I've done almost every one of them. I haven't done the one in Asia. But I found that the London Business School program, opened my eyes to individuals from other countries like Russia and Israel who can't come to the US right now, and found opportunities to connect with them, and also remind myself like just how lucky we are. I remember sitting in a cab with a guy from Russia, and I was like, just out of curiosity, like, what happened when the war started? Like, how did it impact your business? And the stories he told me about what he had to do to maintain his business and keep his people employed. And I was in awe. And I came away from Harvard with a framework that was very clear. I came away from London Business School with kind of a new appreciation for how easy I have it. And like, I'm a woman, you're a woman in business. Like, it's not easy for us, but it's way easier for us than it is for other people, right? And how privileged we are, and how grateful I am for the opportunities that we have. And so I think it's been really cool to step out of the chapter and have exposure to folks from other chapters, and have exposure to folks from other countries. But there was a really neat moment at the Harvard week that I went to, where at the end of the week, there were like 4 or 5 cases of EO individuals, EO CEOs, who came up and kind of did their problem, right? And the Harvard professor said to us, Jim, he said, would you like to solve this the Harvard way, so like through the Harvard framework, or would you like to solve this the EO way, which was through experience shares? And there was a really cool moment of like 90 entrepreneurs that had never met each other before, all knowing what an experience share is, how we don't should each other, from all over the world. I mean, all over the world. And so it was really, really cool. I think the way that the structure of the meeting of the forum meeting is set up is kind of represented in these international learning opportunities. The respect for each other. I don't know. It's really blown me away, the international learning opportunities, and it's made me grow in ways that I didn't know I needed to grow the business.
Fantastic, fantastic. I love it. Yeah, I'm thinking Harvard too. It sounds amazing. And then I was at Global Leadership Conference last week and sitting on a table with someone from Indonesia. The gal with some great ideas was from the Toronto chapter, and it's like it's a global world, and the
Love it.
ideas are out there. Well, thank you so much for sharing your book. I appreciate your
Super.
time, Kira, and thank you so much for being on Entrepreneurs Unplugged.
Thank you.